Give me an idea what fight week is like versus your expectations, what you thought everything was going to be like in your head.
No, this is exactly what I expected.
Are you enjoying the process at all? I mean, I know this is more about the competition, but this part of it, the show, the interviews, all this part, are you enjoying it, or is it an absolute burden to you?
I try to find some type of enjoyment and try to find the good side of things, yeah.
Have you been able to do that yet, or is it still just frustrating for you?
Right now, you're making me laugh. You're bringing a smile to my face, so I'm enjoying that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I wonder, a slow ride for you to get here, right? You were never in a rush along the way. I wonder what it was like for you, because you could have probably jumped in at any time. I mean, with who you are, you could have done it, but you were patient. Was that difficult, because the spotlight was always here for you?
It wasn't difficult to take my time, because I've been... As I learned jiu-jitsu, I realized it takes time, It takes time to get good at certain moves. It takes time to do certain things. And with jiu-jitsu, I learned how to learn. I learned how to get better. And that's what it is. So it took time for me to get good at jiu-jitsu. It took time for me to get my credentials in jiu-jitsu and to feel good about fighting and training with the right people and being in the right place and just being at the right place at the right time. So ultimately, I was fighting in Japan, and I like a 10-minute round, but for whatever reason, they didn't have the right fights for me. They didn't have as many fights. They didn't have as many events. And time is of an essence, so let's get these fights going.
Your family, of course, introduced the sport to the world. It's evolved so much since it first came around. I wonder, do you embrace that evolution and feel like you're a mixed martial artist, or do you feel like, no, I'm coming in and I'm representing Gracie Jiu-Jitsu again?
Well, no matter what I say, I always represent Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I always represent the family, no matter what. Because that's my roots and that's my essence of who I am in every way. I wouldn't be anything without being son of my dad, without being grandson of my grandfather. But today, it is different, and as I got better at jiu-jitsu, I started to do judo, I started to do wrestling, I started to do boxing, I started to do kickboxing, and I became better at everything, So I think the evolution of martial arts is to become a full, complete martial artist in everything possible and not leaving any holes in your game.
I know you're proud of your family, but it puts a big target on your back as well. It opens doors, but it makes it tough. I wonder, is there ever any part of you that wishes you were Kron Smith, that nobody's going to be looking at you and saying, you've got to fulfill these expectations?
If I were to think like that, then I wouldn't have made it this far, So I've always, as a kid, I've always been very grateful to represent the family and able to even be good enough to do so, because not everybody in the family has skills to compete and has the ability to stay good when the lights are on. So I've always, ever since I was a little kid, been good at competing. Even if I didn't like it as much, or didn't like training, or didn't like a lot of stuff, it's always been kind of my path where everything works out the best. When the lights are on and when the pressure's on, it's kind of when I've been where I do my best, and when the training gets tough, it's kind of when I do my best. So everything in my life has kind of been pointing towards that. And as soon as it's not that, it doesn't flow as easily. So I just have to go with what it feels right. If I felt like it wasn't right, I wouldn't do it. So I feel like everything I've been doing has been right, and I'm going with the flow of where my energy's going. And the time that I spent not fighting was good in some ways, but it was also a big realization that I need to be fighting, So I'm very grateful to be healthy and able to represent.
When you say you realize you need to be fighting, is that to fulfill something within yourself or to continue the family? Why do you say you need to be fighting?
Like I said, when I compete and when I'm training for competitions, I feel like I'm being used to my maximum capacity. If I'm not competing or training for a competition, I feel like I'm wasting my talent, and I feel like I'm wasting my deep energy that's in there, and the drive and the emotions that's all been bottled. Everything's been coming from my grandfather to my dad to this point. So if I just teach jiu-jitsu, I love teaching jiu-jitsu, but if I just teach and I kind of feel like every day becomes Groundhog's Day. So this is a lot more spice to my life, and I feel like the spice is what I'm about.
You talked about difficulty in getting opponents. When you came to UFC, they gave you the name Alex Caceres. Give me an idea. Had you seen him fight? Were you aware of him? Were you happy with the matchup? What did you feel when they said, this is the guy you're going to debut against?
I actually wanted a different guy first, and we kind of were agreeing towards fighting a different guy, a tougher guy, and then they just gave me Alex Caceres. So it was really like, okay, I guess they think I might have if I get him to the ground, I might be able to beat him. But they also, of course, if he lands something, it could be dangerous. And I think it's a stylistic, it's a cool matchup because it's kind of a little bit old school to a sense. But personally, I like to fight guys that are going to try to whoop try to come in for the kill. I think that's a better fight as opposed to fighting somebody who may run away. So I'd rather fight tougher fights. Win or lose, I'd rather fight, better fights, guys who are going to try to come in and put some action on me.
Is that guy that you asked for next on the list when you win here?
We'll see. Let's just get through this fight first.
Yeah. Can we ask who's going to be in the corner? Obviously, the great family that you have, the great trainers that you have. Who's going to be with you on fight night?
I don't know. We'll see.
Fair enough. Hey, and I want to ask, just your goals in the sport, this timeline. As you said, you were patient to get here. What about now? Do you feel like there's an importance to do stuff quickly? Are there ultimate goals? Give me an idea what your UFC career holds.
I'd like to fight as much as possible, as soon as possible. I think that's where I'm at this point in my life. I think the experience that I needed, I already got, and now I just need to rack up some fights.